Zilla Jr., welcome back, buddy. So, today we're going to be seeing if he can survive Monster Hunter. However, not in the standard sense that I would do it. See, when I normally do a Monster Hunter video, some of the characters, or some of the monsters, I should say, start off as fully grown adults, and if they have, a certain population, or if they can function as a species, I'll put them in there. Junior here is a little different. So, here's what we're going to do. He's going to start off as a baby. We'll say he hatches in the middle of a safe zone area where there are no predators, no fish or anything. He can just hatch and go on about his day. So we're going to be detailing how he would actually have to survive all the way till an adult, okay? So he's going to have to go through everything the Monster Hunter environment can pretty much go with him. So with that being said here, grab some popcorn or go ahead and grab something to eat because we are going to be here for a good minute. Thank God this is not an hour-long video because I usually hate those. But without being said, please comment down below, like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and let's begin. But wait, I gotta give a special thanks and a special shout out to Avidal Storm on Discord who made this fantastic image for me because I wanted to give Zilla Jr. something special. So I definitely have to thank you a lot for this one. But now, without further ado, let us truly begin. So to start off, we're going to be putting Junior in the New World, as I do believe this is one of the more beneficial environments for him to be in. And I could have used the Forbidden Lands, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, it's more familiar. And I don't think Zilla would really have to struggle here with anything as much as he would in the Forbidden Lands. Plus, having Arkveld kind of running around could possibly speed up and shorten the lifespan, considering he was out of control mainly. Now, with that being said here, Zilla, even at his birth, liked fish. I think this was kind of obvious that he has a more piscivorian diet. So Monster Hunter can provide plenty of that. There are plenty of fishing spots in the ancient forest, wildspire wastes, and even the coral highlands. Now, believe it or not, I don't really see Zilla Jr. going to the coral highlands. Now, here's the thing, right? It could start off as a good baby area for Zilla here. But as he grows older, some of those tight turns and crevices are going to be very detrimental, especially when the fact that some of his fishing spots are in those crevices or in those areas where Zilla needs to really dig through and get in constantly. So it's going to be a pain to do so. So believe it or not, the best area for Zilla to grow up in is the ancient forest. And yes, I understand the dangers that come with it, but believe it or not, I do think Zilla can get around it. Simply because of his stats. For starters, he's around the small, you could probably say small building level and stuff like that as a baby, as he's able to easily burrow through concrete, something his siblings couldn't do. And he's also able to, I think he should be stronger than his siblings who were able to casually dent steel doors. Now, with that being said here, Zilla should actually be able to maintain a lifestyle at the coast. Keep in mind, we will be using every monster that normally goes to the region, including some of the more migratory and invasive monsters and stuff like that, but we're only going through the ones that he would really encounter. So believe it or not, with many fish pockets in the ancient forest, plus with the dense foliage, this does means that Junior can actually cover himself and actually get away with eating tons of fish. Now, believe it or not, I do think Junior would definitely grow or try to take territory in a more controlled area, probably in some of the cave networks where he could easily avoid some of the larger monsters and definitely be able to get the upper hand on any of the smaller to medium-sized monsters. So with him going after fish and stuff, there are definitely plenty of things like mackerel and Garju. Garju may actually make up the majority of the large fish diet that Zilla would have. There are also things like swordfish or marlins and stuff like that, burst arrowfish, and again, Zilla has plenty of sunfish, which are common in the region. However, I do think that if he does maintain a diet or maintain a routine of going to the coast, this could lead him to bumping into Kestodons. Now, Kestodons, believe it or not, can provide a definite diet for Zilla as well. However, they're around the same size as him, and they actually move in groups. Plus, their heads are incredibly sturdy, meaning if Zilla does try to do the whole ram thing at him like his siblings, he's likely going to get concussed, leaving him vulnerable to likely other predators as well. So it's not a really a good look, in all honesty. And with that being said, he may have to go ahead and go into the more dense areas just to avoid a conflict, in all honesty. However, he can definitely take down a Kestodon if it's isolated from the herd. But then again, this will put him in competition with probably one of his more common adversaries, that being Great Jagras. Yeah, I do think Great Jagras is going to be a constant thorn in Junior's side. Now, while he could easily, and I mean easily, decimate Jaguars, I would probably say even a group of 3, he would be able to decimate them with absolute ease. However, when it comes to the likes of Great Jaguars, this is going to be a big problem. Junior is not going to survive an entire fight with Great Jaguars, okay? Because again, remember, he's still in the infantile stage. And considering the fact that they lap up Kestodon, I could definitely see a moment where Junior does have to get away from, Great Jaguars and just avoid his jaws, and probably just narrowly escapes. Or he utilizes his burrowing and actually, gets away. However, as Zilla becomes, smarter over the years, he'll start using his burrowing to actually be able to trap some of the smaller prey animals, like the pigs and the kelpie that inhabit the ancient forest. And believe it or not, it's very possible he'll start scavenging Aptonoff carcasses as well. And this may mean he may have to go into, I guess you could say, some evasive maneuvers, or maybe try to keep running, or, avoiding, predators like Anjanath and Tigrex. Because again, they do leave a lot left on their kills that they just really won't eat. So Zilla would definitely have to get accustomed to eating the leftovers of some of the bigger predators, especially at a younger age, just to make sure his diet is more, what's the word I'm looking for? Plentiful, if you will. So believe it or not, Junior actually has a pretty good start. However, one big problem. He could likely run into Lagiacrus. Now you might say, oh, well, he was in the world originally, he was planned for it. And the environment, some of the more interior waterways, could definitely have Lagiacrus. The coast as well could also have Lagiacrus showing up. And again, he was supposed to be in the game when the second half dropped, but guess that wouldn't have happened. And he could even work in the Coral Highlands, for crying out loud here. Come on now. And, well, believe it or not, Lagiacrus would definitely be a pain. Nargacuja would also be a pain, especially at night times. So this does mean Zilla would have to sleep in maybe more guarded foliage-like areas and stuff like that, where he could easily camouflage. Tigrex as well is going to be a constant problem, meaning that Zilla would likely have to make sure he gets his territorial markings correct. And if he sees a Tigrex, it's very possible that he may just burrow and make sure that he just gets away from there entirely. But believe it or not, this is actually pretty simple so far. I know it sounds crazy what I'm saying here, but yeah, Zilla, Junior here is actually going to be decently okay. I think he can definitely be wary of his areas, considering he is the smartest of his siblings, and he's more observant than they were. So believe it or not, he would actually get to his juvenile years. Yeah, I do believe he would have gotten to his juvenile years. So now, this will put him around, I'll probably say, the city levels at that point. And believe it or not, he's much bigger, around 35 feet tall. And he also developed his atomic fire at this point as well. So, with him actually surviving this long, this means Zilla is now in Apex. Alright? No longer does he have to fear any of the monsters around him, and now he can actually compete for much larger prey. And with his atomic fire breath, and with him being able to actually rapid fire and use it, and even use it in ways that, well, actually benefit him in battle, he could likely move on and start exploring a bit more, meaning that he would actually go to the Wildspire Waste. And this area, I believe Zilla would definitely dominate as well. He would definitely be, I'd probably say, top 3 of the apexes in the area, and only surpassed by the likes of Bezogus. Keep in mind, again, we are still talking about the juvenile stage, not the fully grown adult stage. So, with him as a juvenile being around the 35-foot margin, this means Zilla would fall in love with his greatest prey ever, Gyarados. Come on, y'all. Y'all already know. This dude gets eaten just about in every, and I mean every survival video. Especially when it comes to like fish-based prey, predators and stuff like that. Predators that prey on fish, piscivores. Yeah, Gyarados is perfect. The ideal fish prey, the ideal prey for any piscivore is definitely going to be this one right here. And keep in mind, desert-based environments, drought seasons as well, if Gyarados picks a hole too poorly that isn't connected to the, I guess you could say, waterways of the ancient forest, or maybe because the Wild Spiral Waste is connected to the ancient forest and has a lot more water resources, this is very possible that Gyarados may actually be more frequent in the area. And this also means Zilla would likely be there a lot more, preying upon them. Meaning he would basically have an entire creature to just eat consistently and become their natural predator, which would be insane now, wouldn't it? And then we have Nightshade Palumo. Now, believe it or not, I do think Zilla could even befriend a Palumo, considering he is more, I guess you could say a bit more temperamental and a bit more willing to work with other kaiju because of his intelligence. Barroth, I definitely think could be a territorial dispute, but I wouldn't say Zilla would be passive on preying upon him, especially considering the fact that now he's likely gotten a taste for hunting much more live prey as well. And so this means that if Barroth actually does try to do the whole mud armor thing, I can see Zilla just kind of like rolling his eyes and then just simply unleashing his atomic fire, where he's able to harden the mud and just, break out of it. Plus, it's very possible he could one-tap him as well. So, in all honesty, Zilla's gonna have a pretty good diet in the Monster Hunter world at this point. Him being now 35 feet tall does mean he could prey upon the larger animals, including the likes of Bomburo as well. Sorry, I almost forgot about him. Bomburo. Tobikadachi is possibly not, because again, I do think Zilla could also befriend that species as well. Pookie is also a definite. Now, as for the competition, yeah, he definitely upgrades himself to Rathalos, Nargacuja, Tigrex, and Glavenus. However, with his atomic fire, his greater speed and reflexes, and the fact that he's, literally more intelligent than them, he's likely going to make sure, or likely just orchestrate his way around them pretty frequently. And then there's also Ebony Odogaron. This one could definitely be his most intense competition, especially around the juvenile stage, because Odogaron will likely scavenge Zilla's kills. And keep in mind, if Zilla does stick to eating more Gyarados, this does mean that Ebony Odogaron could likely see it as an opportunity to try and maybe bully Zilla off of his own kill. However, again, this dude would definitely be stronger, durable, and possibly, you could say, surprisingly agile as well for his size, considering the fact that, he is able to dodge lasers, energy missiles, and stuff like that. And again, his burrowing capabilities allows him to likely create his own dens, which will likely be filled with, different corpses, or maybe corpses will outline the area of Zilla's entrance. Now, what about Diablos? And you might think that, Zilla would definitely prey upon him, right? I would probably say yes, but not at the rate that most predators would. See, Glavenus can prey on Diablos, but again, that's still a risk at the end of the day regardless. So can the likes of Fulgor, Anjanath, and even regular Anjanath. But again, Anjanath will get cooked by Diablos. I think it's very well stated that. Zilla will likely prey upon a Diablos if he really sees that he's kind of a little too far from a watering source. And that could literally be a whole testament to Zilla's intelligence rather than his physical prowess. But now, we've reached the peak of Zilla's height. The 198 feet. Or maybe 180 feet. I'm not sure if he was bigger than his parent, or slightly smaller. It's usually one or the other. But again, I do think he was maybe around the same size. So, considering the fact that the original Zilla was also 198 feet tall, yeah, I think that whatchamacallit, Junior would definitely be able to grow here. Now, keep in mind, at this point, I definitely could see Zilla leaving the New World as he's gotten too big. Maybe even taking Gajira Totus along for the road and just simply going along his way. Do I think he would have visited the Elder's Recess at some point? No. No, I don't think so. Now, it's about that time I definitely could see Zilla establishing himself as a, I guess you could say, as a friend to humanity. As again, Junior has never had the whole intention of harming humans unless they harmed him. And believe it or not, he would likely go out at sea a lot more just to, I guess you could say, fulfill his niche or fulfill his diet. Meaning the likes of Plesioth and Legiocris have a new big apex on the prowl. But considering how he reaches those multi-continental to even planetary attack potency at that point, he's an Elder Dragon level monster now. Meaning that the only thing that's really going to be able to fight him off, if he decides to prey upon them, will be Legiocris. However, there's also something we have to talk about as well. With Zilla growing up in this kind of environment, there's also the very big possibility some things can change with him. Not both, externally as well, internally. Meaning that Zilla's biology could very well have evolved in this environment. Meaning now that he's probably like, you could probably say 10 times stronger than what he was in the original. To the point where he can prey upon the likes of Nakarkos and Cadeus without even, breaking a sweat. We're talking about a kaiju here that literally has been born into the Monster Hunter verse, and or at least thrown in as a baby and has been forced to evolve, adapt, and survive here. Meaning that he could very well impact the ecosystem in ways that maybe most monsters can't. And considering the fact that he would never target like human settlements and stuff like that, he may actually be going after other Elder Dragons or more destructive Elder Dragons, if you will. This means that the likes of beings like Gogmazios, Dalmador, and maybe even Lao Shang Lung. And believe it or not, I do think Lao Shang Lung, because now that Zilla's more out in the open world, exploring new territories, I do think he would likely come across a running Lao Shang Lung at this point. And likely be a little confused at first until he actually starts reasoning with the kaiju. So, believe it or not, I do think Zilla would definitely see that Lao Shang Lung is afraid of something, likely communicate it with the best they can, and this would give the guild their first real taste of Junior, likely him being a more ally than enemy, meaning that it's very possible that he may have a, I guess you could say, protect on sight order or do not engage order on him, as he would be known as one of the friendlier creatures in the area that can benefit the guild. Now, believe it or not, I do think he will return to the New World during the Elder Crossing, where he would likely have a few skirmishes with Nergigante despite him being full size, and it's very possible he could be the one to push back the likes of Zora Magdaros. However, this also does mean he would be tracking down Xeno'jiiva, and it will be his first time in the Elder's Recess, but when he actually gets like the signal or the energy signature for Xeno'jiiva, it's very possible he'll burrow him out and then snatch him up before he hatches. Then we have the likes of Sapphire-Jiiva. Now, I do believe this is the only time we would definitely see Zilla Jr. and the Hunter actually interact for the very first time. Like, I could definitely see them looking at each other like, oh, hi, how are you? So, you're the kaiju. Okay. It's nice to actually, look at you for once, up close and personal. So, we gonna jump this dude? Oh, we are. Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's get to it. Doesn't matter if they're male or female. Let's prefer the female hunters, because you already know. Whew. Anyway, like I was saying, being able to jump and then push back Sapphire-Jiiva, it's very possible Sapphire-Jiiva, once it's low on energy, that would be it. Meaning Sapphire-Jiiva would meet a very quick end. However, believe it or not, I do think Zilla would definitely take a lot worse of a beating because, again, of how powerful this, almost black dragon is. Realizing that there's level to this as well. So, Zilla would definitely leave the new world and would start searching. You want to say, legendary, why is he searching for something? And I think it's searching for something to change himself, a way to grow. And considering nature in Monster Hunter is about really balancing or giving and taking, let's just say nature decides that today it's going to give something to Junior here. And this does mean the Electron fight is going to happen like in the original. So, yeah, get out your PTSD and let's get this over with. So, where do I think Zilla would travel? I could probably see him going to maybe an Elder Dragon original graveyard, somewhere where he can likely absorb and amass some type of power. Maybe he finds a thermal vat that has some sort of radiation that no one goes near, but he's able to feed on it and absorb it. So we would basically get a Godzilla scenario or a monster scenario where Zilla Jr. simply has evolved at that point. And maybe he would just have to demonstrate that power by beating a rampaging Elder Dragon level monster like a Gengaron or something like that. Or a Shengaron, excuse me. So, with that being said, this means he would definitely make his way towards Fatalis. After likely finding a Lao Lung that's likely dead and maybe even halfway eaten, I can definitely see whatever the hunter and, the guild, they're struggling. This would be the one time they couldn't beat Fatalis, and it looks like it's hopeless. But then Zilla Jr. arrives. Stronger, faster, more durable than what he was before. Now glowing with an intensity that no one ever thought would ever be seen. And so he and Fatalis have a turf war. One that would shake the entirety of the Monster Hunter world. And at the end of it, he would definitely be able to beat Fatalis with extreme difficulty. So, at the end of the day, do I think Zilla Jr. survives Monster Hunter? Yes, I do. From an infant, he'll definitely have to dodge a large majority of the creatures. However, considering he's smarter, not reckless, and very cautious, this does mean he will be able to avoid a large majority of the monsters and use his burrowing capabilities to escape. However, once he hits those juvenile to adult stage, it just gets much and much more easier from going on. So, this can be all for today, you guys, and I'll see you guys for the next video. Peace.